Farmer, thanks for having us out on the farm.
Oh my gosh, thanks for coming out.
Where are we? This is a beautiful setting.
2.9 miles inland from Lake Erie. We're in an amazing microclimate here. This is actually all old lake bottom about 11,000 years ago. Some of the richest sandy loam in the world.
This is why all the wineries set up shop here too, I imagine.
That's exactly right. They were actually, this area was huge in wine grapes before Napa Valley was.
So you and your family have been farming this land and land around here for many, many years. How many years?
Over 50 years.
And you, like many family farms around here, you were a conventional farm. You grew corn and beans and tomatoes for the wholesale market.
That's right.
I understand it's a little different these days.
It is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, 1980, that was a big turning point.
About 1982, yeah.
Tell us what happened.
Well, it's hard to imagine with interest rates today as low as they are. In the late 70s and early 80s, the interest rates hit 22%. And of course, it was the days of Earl Butz, Secretary of Agriculture, saying to farmers, get big or get out. And we had a devastating hailstorm and it wiped out all the crops. And I stood at 19 years old, shoulder to shoulder with my mother and father and brother and sister, all of our neighbors, all of our competitors, everybody that was there to celebrate our failure. And they auctioned off everything we owned, right down to my mother's car and our house. And we started over, and you know, fortunately we met a lady that was a whole lot smarter than we were. And her name was Iris Balin. And she actually went on to become the food editor at the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And she said, if you guys would grow for quality, grow for the flavor, grow for chefs, I believe that there would be enough support to sustain you guys. And we were so desperate, Doug, to find a way to be able to survive in agriculture, and here was a path that she was laying out. And man, we grabbed around both ankles and we said, okay, teach us.
Well, that might not even make sense to a lot of people who are watching. What do you mean you grow for chefs as opposed to people at home? How is it different? Are the products different?
Well, they are. And I don't fault any farmers. They're following the model that exists, and that is to keep the costs as low as possible and to produce as many tons per acre as possible. And so the goal is about low cost, high output of production, not about the quality, the integrity, or the flavor, or the nutritional levels of the product. If we were being measured for something different than that, I think that those farmers would be happy to grow for that. But ultimately, when we lost the farm and started over, it became about flavor. The three most important things that we heard from chefs was flavor was first important, flavor was second most important, and flavor
Right.
was third most important.
And I think something that people can relate to, if you've ever grown a tomato in your own backyard and you compare that ripe, garden fresh tomato to the one you buy at the grocery store, it's night and day, right?
They look good, there's not much taste. Look, when the tomato's in season, you need a tomato in one hand and a hanky in the other.
Right.
And
It's juicy as a peach.
Yeah, that's right, just like a peach. And you know, when they're in season, we should have them 3 times a day, and when they're out of season, we should lust for them.
So I've been lucky to have been coming out to this farm for many years as a writer. I remember coming out maybe 15 years ago, and you took me to this packing room where all the vegetables come in there. We're just picked. The room is cold, so the vegetables don't lose any freshness. They were packaged up. And then I looked on the wall, and you showed me all the orders, where this food was going. I mean, when I say French Laundry, Jose Andres, Charlie Trotter, rest in peace, literally the best restaurants around the world. You were selling food to them from Huron, Ohio.
You know, and the chefs have really taken us under their wing over the years and taught us. And it was, I think, all in training for 2020. Because as proud as I am to be able to say that we work with Ritz-Carltons and Four Seasons and all of those Michelin-starred chefs, to be able to make our product available to individuals and home cooks, and to be able to offer the home delivery, which we pivoted into in the middle of COVID, to be able to have good, safe, healthy products available for people, it makes me very proud to be able to be opened up to that community and be able to offer our products available to them.
So now you do. You kind of serve both communities, the chefs and the restaurants, and then home cooks like myself.
And it is exciting. Look, we see hope. I mean, it's an entirely different spring than it was a year ago. We're seeing some restaurants around the country recover, and we are their biggest cheerleader. And we want them to succeed and to survive and to make it, and we would do anything to help them. But you know, it's been exciting to see a lot of folks cooking at home and really focusing on wanting quality, healthy ingredients. So our focus is really not only pivoted from restaurants to home users, but not only flavor, but the health and the nutrition of the product. And we're really focused on nutrient and nutrient density. In fact, we put a laboratory in where we can actually test and see what we can do naturally rather than chemically to improve the health of the soil. We have a saying, healthy soil, healthy vegetables, healthy people, healthy environment. And that's really the crux of what we're trying to do today.
Yeah, I mean, even just driving by, you see these cornfields, you know, they're not really taking the time to feed the soil. They just put the chemical fertilizer on top and they call it a day, right? You guys are building up the soil season after season, and you probably don't even have to fertilize with chemicals, things like that.
Well, I think that the fertilizer can come in many ways, and I think that, you know, everything kind of full cycles.
Yeah.
If you go back to our grandparents' day, and my dad used to have a saying that the only thing we're trying to do is get as good as the farmers were 100 years ago.
Right.
And we obviously are taking advantage of technology that's available today that wasn't for our great-grandparents. But we want to understand it's no really different than going and getting blood work drawn and find that you're high in iron or low in iron or high in calcium. What's going on in the soil, where are the imbalances, and what's really beautiful about it is, you know, we all understand going out and harvesting vitamin D. Hey, it's a great sunshiny day, we are going to go out and collect some vitamin D. But plants can harvest different types of energy. So we find out what the soil is deficient and then plant crop specific. My brother and the team have worked really hard. They actually have a 15 species multi-crop planting that they'll plant out in the field. But things like alfalfa and clover and vetch and buckwheat and barley and sudan grass, different types of plants will harvest different types of energy from the sun. So based on the deficiency in the soil, planting crop specific. And if you can visualize that plant as an antenna or a receptacle,
Right.
harvest the energy, pull it down through the plant, into the stem, into the root. And then when we plant the turnip or the beet or the carrot or the radish or the spinach or the tomato, it picks that back up, and when we eat it, it builds our immune system. It's not rocket science. It's working in harmony with nature rather than trying to outsmart it.
I also know from visiting the farm for many years that you've talked about doing a book for a long, long time. You obviously have such great stories to tell. Your family has such great history here. And now, finally, you guys put together this beautiful cookbook. I say cookbook, but it's much bigger than a cookbook. It comes out later this month. What's it called, and what are people going to find out inside?
Yeah, it's the modern guide to vegetables. We're very honored to be able to provide the book and make it available. It's a collection of 50 years of work and trials and lots of mistakes. My dad had a saying that we have to continue to make mistakes at a faster rate than the competition. Right. And he also said we do mistakes really well. So there's certainly, it's a collection of some of our trials and errors, but some of our successes, and really growing and finding vegetables that we didn't even know could be grown in this region. But what's more, food waste is really important to us. You know, we've been kind of conditioned in America to think of things being a particular shape or a perfect shape, and if it wasn't a perfect shape, it had to be thrown away. And I think the whole ugly vegetable movement that's been happening, I think, has helped. But even looking at a plant, if you think about the enormous amounts of energy that go into a Brussels sprout, the plant gets 3.5 or 4 foot tall. You've got all these beautiful leaves that provide a canopy to protect the Brussels sprout from being sunburned. But all this energy, in fact, 10, 11 months to grow a Brussels sprout, and all of that's wasted. Well, we explore ways that those leaves can be used. It's in the cruciferous family, same as cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower and kale. Why not use that leaf? And I would defy you to be able to tell the difference between a collard green and a Brussels sprout leaf, or looking at the stalk and making, of course, we have bone marrow. Why not vegetable marrow? It's about celebrating that plant's life and just elevating it, putting that vegetable on a pedestal and celebrating all of the goodness that vegetable can provide.
Well, you're making me hungry. I understand Chef Jamie, who you've worked with here on the farm for many years, is going to cook us something in the kitchen. Are you going to help prepare some food?
You know what? I'm a farmer, and I can tell you that, you know, Chef Jamie Simpson did a beautiful job. There's over 100 recipes in this book. And doing this book together with him, it really, I think, epitomizes the synergy and the symbiotic relationship of chef and farmer working together. The thing that we can do to help reduce waste the most in this country is for either chefs or end users to have a relationship with the producers, to understand where the food's coming from, what's available, when it peaks, when it ebbs and flows, and to be able to have that understanding. And we lost that in this country, and it really becomes up to us to make that reconnection. And I hope that that book helps inspire people to look at those ways that they might be able to use vegetables that they've never considered before.
I think it will, because I've looked through that book. It is beautiful, it is useful, and I think some of the recipes sound not only, it's not that difficult, and you'll end up with things that would just blow your mind. So
Well,
thank
we're
you.
hopeful.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.